The NBA draft just concluded, and right after that, we get NBA trade rumors that can completely shift the league, as LaMelo Ball is reportedly available and the Charlotte Hornets are listening to offers, and you have the Toronto Raptors and the Minnesota Timberwolves circling the talented young point guard. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, Domantas Sabonis is reportedly garnering a lot of trade interest. Where could he land? And we got new contracts for Austin Reaves, and Isaiah Stewart was traded during the draft. We're about to talk about all this plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. My name is Haize, and more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today. Before we do that, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. About 60% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers by the start of the 2026-27 season, and we can only do that with your guys' help. So go ahead, stop freeloading, hit that subscribe button. It's free. With that said, reportedly, this is fresh off the presses from Shams, is that LaMelo Ball could be available out there. This coming from Shams that said this: LaMelo is being strongly pursued by multiple teams, and the Charlotte Hornets are engaging on trade talks. Ball would like to remain with the Hornets, but a trade could materialize over the next 24 to 48 hours. Ball has 3 seasons remaining on his 5-year, $203.9 million contract signed with the Hornets in 2023 and is represented by Sam Permut. So, LaMelo Ball, who appeared in 72 games last season, he averaged 20 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, and 7.1 assists. And with Knueppel being on that team and the step up that they made, it looked like the Charlotte Hornets are now going to go back to being the up-and-coming team in the Eastern Conference that they should have been for a while now. But unfortunately, with that said, it looks like now, because of teams' interest, and we know that the desire for multiple point guards, with multiple teams looking for point guards around the league, that maybe the Charlotte Hornets feel like this is the perfect time to pivot and they have to listen for offers. This goes back to kind of what we've talked about before. There's always a chance that, when teams call, if they put the full court press on a team, you never know what that can change for a team like that. And keep in mind, the Charlotte Hornets did also draft Christian Anderson at pick number 18 in this draft, and that's a point guard. Not saying that he can come in and exactly replicate what LaMelo Ball has done for that team, but this may be the time where the pivot makes the most sense for them to get it done at. And that's what they're going to be weighing here in regards to this, is looking at the situation and asking themselves, is it time to finally move on from LaMelo Ball? So let's take a look at it, right? Let's talk about the reasons why they should trade him. Charlotte can reset around Brandon Miller and Knueppel, who by many people should have probably been the rookie of the year last year, right? And then also, LaMelo Ball's value is probably extremely high right now, where you can get multiple premium assets because of the number of years left on his contract, and he's coming off of one of his healthier seasons, and then it can help the Charlotte Hornets forge a more long-term, stable identity. But the side of it to keep him comes down to this, is that he is a dynamic offensive engine for that. And I think last season was one of the first seasons where LaMelo really kind of started doing the things that it takes to win basketball games, and that's not something we've always been able to say about LaMelo Ball. So now you can see that, right? LaMelo is one of the most, dynamic players in the league. When he's on, it's absolutely magical, right? And so trading him too early could actually reset the reset that you're just going through, right? So the Hornets are being smart by listening. But I do think this, you don't want to necessarily overthink it, right? But with that said, the Raptors and the Wolves are the two teams that, in this report by Shams are circling around this. Which team fits LaMelo better? The Raptors fit. LaMelo will give the Raptors an instant offensive engine that they need. He raises their pace, their playmaking, their half court, right? When they definitely need it in the playoffs is more half court creation and scoring. He instantly brings that to the Toronto Raptors team. And I do think that the Raptors may be more desperate to make a splash. But then when you look at the Wolves fit in all of this, the Wolves could pair LaMelo Ball with Anthony Edwards. Now, I don't know if that frustrates Anthony Edwards more, but more so, also, we talked about it on today's earlier episode, is that with Anthony Edwards already kind of signaling to the front office in Minnesota that, hey, I want you guys to improve this roster. You traded Julius Randle, you did re-sign Ayo Dosunmu, and now you could have, by adding LaMelo Ball to that, a nice balance between LaMelo, Anthony Edwards, and Ayo Dosunmu as your 3 main guards on that roster. And I tell you what, that's not bad. It gives them another creator offensively that they need. And so that offense that can get stagnant at times, it would definitely help eliminate that. And the Wolves could view him as the long-term backcourt centerpiece. Again, to pair with Anthony Edwards, you also got Ayo Dosunmu there, and this nice offense, defense, shooting balance, all that type of stuff when it comes down to that. So the question I want to throw to you guys in regards to this one is, which team do you think will and should be more aggressive about obtaining LaMelo Ball? Should it be the Toronto Raptors? Should it be the Minnesota Timberwolves? And where do you think the best basketball fit for LaMelo is? And which team can actually make it further by doing it? Keep in mind, Minnesota may be moving over to the Eastern Conference in about 2 or 3 years as well. So keep that in mind also. But I guess LaMelo Ball's contract could be up by then. But let me know what you guys think on all of that part down below. But now to the next rumor. Domantas Sabonis also reportedly is getting a lot of interest around the league. This one comes from Brian Windhorst that says this. I think it may include taking a look at the future of Domantas Sabonis with the team. There's a lot of interest in Sabonis, and there's a possibility that the Kings may look to see what his trade market might be as they look to pivot their franchise. Now, Sabonis is on a $45.47 million contract for the 2026-27 season. He signed through 2027-28, and so a team that will trade for Domantas Sabonis this offseason could get 2 years of him, right? And then, of course, extend him. He can be extended sooner rather than later, and so you extend him, and you end up keeping him, and that could be the benefit, and that's where Sabonis also could maybe have a little bit of control, saying he will or won't extend with the team. This is the side of trading him. I think that it just makes sense. You got Darius Acuff in there. He gives them a perfect ability to retool with Keegan Murray, which I think makes sense. You have, DeMar, who has a partially guaranteed contract going into next season. They could come off that. Zach LaVine, who expires at the end of the season. They definitely want to come off that. And it could be that reset that the Sacramento Kings desperately need and that they want in this phase, is to reset their roster, reset their direction. And Domantas Sabonis probably has the best trade value of anyone. So you get more assets so you can actually build towards your retool and rebuild. I think that just makes sense for where the Sacramento Kings currently are. And I just don't think that holding on to Sabonis, even to the trade deadline, really makes sense. Trade him now before the season starts so he can have a training camp with the new team, and they get that full 2 years remaining on his contract. Now, the side for keep him, of course, on the basketball court, elite rebounder, passer, the offensive hub that he can be is absolutely great. We've seen him do that before. And I think trading him definitely creates a massive hole, but that's kind of what you want in a rebuild as well. Like, Sabonis isn't the problem with the Sacramento Kings, but at the same time, to get themselves out of this hole that they dug themselves in, rebuilding is really the only way that you can do that. And I don't see a way in which, they can hope that they're able to really build something with Sabonis still on this team in the time that they have with 2 years left on this contract. I think this is the time right now. The Sacramento Kings roster construction overall is a problem, but you start clearing that out by moving players that actually have value, and that is Domantas Sabonis. He has that value, so move him and get that done. A team that did make a move in moving a player to get value back and probably set themselves up to make another move was that the Grizzlies acquired Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons for 3 second-round picks, which is crazy that this happened during the draft, right? The Pistons cleared salary cap space with the trade of Isaiah Stewart. We know that he's been on the trade block for a while now. That's what it comes down to. Reportedly, the Detroit Pistons are planning on pursuing a major upgrade for shot creation and perimeter scoring to help lessen the burden on Cade Cunningham, right? They've been linked to Kobe White, Norman Powell, as well as Tyler Hero as far as a trade destination as well. Stewart had $30 million over 2 seasons remaining on his contract as well. And while appearing in 58 games last season and averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 22.7 minutes, you had Paul Reed Jr., who kind of emerged as a backup center and did a lot of the stuff that you typically have gotten from Beef Stew. And so that's the reality of it, right? They are setting themselves up now to make a big move this offseason. I think that's smart for the Detroit Pistons. This is the time where they need to be aggressive and make the move. And I think this is smart because Stewart clears the money for them to get the shot creation that they need. Cade Cunningham needs that help. And with free agents like Norman Powell and Kobe White out there, that makes even more sense. Or you can trade Tyler Hero if he decides to leave his hometown Milwaukee Bucks. I do think that this is a little bit of a risk for Detroit. Stewart brought toughness, defensive edge. The cap space matters, but you have to land the right player to take advantage of that cap space. And I do think that Detroit just can't afford to have an empty offseason. But if they're making this move, I think that they feel pretty confident about getting one of those guys to help get there in there. And that's it. Like, Pistons could be a very big sleeper team this offseason to make the right moves and make the next step that they need to make in their development to win a playoff series. Go a step further, right? The best record in the Eastern Conference last year, and in the playoffs, it got exposed that you didn't have another half-court creator. And that's what they're trying to get here. Jaden Ivey was that while he was healthy, the season before last, he completely is not healthy and he's gone and off the deep end. So now at this point, like whether it's Kobe White, Norman Powell, or Tyler Hero, you can make a different case for how all those guys could fit with with the Detroit Pistons. It just comes down to what the contract they're willing to accept and where Detroit feels like is the best case for them to make forward progress into the playoffs. And we'll see where that happens, right? Last topic of the day before we get out of here, Austin Reaves signed a big contract extension, which was expected. He signed a 4-year, $185 million deal to stay with the Los Angeles Lakers. And this is a deal that we kind of all expected to happen, right? Like you look at the on-court, off-court numbers with Luka and Austin Reaves together, and now the $46.2 million AAV contract that they have him on is good there. The 4 years, $185 million, it makes sense, right? They could have offered him the 5 years at $241 million, but they ended up staying in that spot to kind of get him, to maintain some space that they need to do some other things this offseason. So the question here becomes, was this a bit of an overpay? And I'll say this, like Austin Reaves is worth it because he had a career year. He fit the Lakers' trajectory and their forward progress. He's homegrown. They developed him. He's efficient. And he's earned the trust of the coach in the big moments, right? Losing him is just a player that you just can't replace, and you're trying to make a step forward while you have Luka Doncic here and take advantage of this window that magical Luka trade got you to be in, and you're there. Now, on the side of this, is it a bit of an overpay? Yeah, I mean, $185 million brings star-level expectations, and the hope is that Austin Reaves can live up to that. But if Austin Reaves never does live up to it or towards the end of the contract, it can definitely be a bit of an overpay. But the question becomes, what have you accomplished between now and then, right? Injuries, playoff durability, those are concerns when it comes to Austin Reaves. But I do think that the flexibility that the Lakers have, we're seeing them eat into that very early on. But is it worth it? That's the question. Is it worth it to continue to do this path and to go down this path that they're on? And many will say yes, right? Austin Reaves is a $185 million player now. He's getting paid $46 million per year, right? And so the production and the expectations around that are going to naturally grow for Austin Reaves. And I don't think there should be anything wrong with that. You should want those expectations to grow. And if Austin Reaves is the player that the Lakers hope that he can be and the player that he's shown himself to be at times, like that's going to be there. Now, the Lakers have other questions that they need to answer. Keep in mind, this even though they agreed to this contract, it's probably not going to be signed until after they do their free agency. That way they can use their bird rights to re-sign Luka Doncic and maintain some flexibility in the free agent market. They still got to figure out what they're going to do with LeBron. They got to figure out the center position there. And they've moved up and down the draft in the last 2 days over the draft to get varying players, which makes sense because of the salary restrictions that they're going to be under. But I think the Lakers, they maintain a player that has built really good chemistry with Luka Doncic since he's been there. And now you just got to keep this thing going and seeing how you're going to develop it and build it on out. You were able to add Cameron Carr, pick number 24, a player that I do think fits with Reaves and Luka Doncic as a player that's going to project to be a two-way player and an on-ball, off-ball scorer. That's really good. He's going to have to put on some weight. He's going to have to take some time to develop. But, the questions that the Lakers have to answer this offseason, this is one that you can just get eliminated off the board and then move forward and see where it's going to put you at. So, overall, I'll say this. It's the deal that the Lakers had to do. Now we got to see what comes next with it, right? But that's going to do it for tonight's episode of NBA Central. The offseason's already given us chaos, trades, rumors, everything, and we're not stopping anytime soon. We're going to keep this thing going because, we're posting every day here, and we're going to cover everything that goes on with the NBA. So make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod for now because we're changing the name of the show to the Full Court Podcast. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Maybe not tomorrow now, unless big news drops. So we'll see. Peace out.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.